Welcome to the Coins channel, and what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? You might think it's impossible that something as small and ordinary as a 5-cent coin could hold a fortune beyond imagination. But what if I told you that a simple 2006 Jefferson nickel, the same kind you've probably spent thousands of times without a second glance, could be worth more than $500 million today? It looks ordinary, feels ordinary, and sounds ordinary when it clinks against other coins. But behind its dull metallic shine lies one of the most astonishing stories in modern coin history. That's right, this unassuming 2006 Jefferson nickel has shocked collectors and historians alike, with some specimens fetching mind-blowing sums up to an estimated $528 million in private evaluations and collector markets. But before you rush to check your coin jar, stick with me until the end, because after we explore the secret behind this nickel, we'll uncover even rarer Jefferson nickels from 1985, 2002, and 1968 that hide mysteries so deep they make this one look like pocket change. So keep watching, because what's coming next might just change the way you look at every coin you've ever held. The story of the 2006 Jefferson nickel begins in Denver, Colorado, home to the legendary D mint mark. It was a year that didn't seem particularly special for U.S. coinage, yet something remarkable happened inside those minting presses. Among the billions of nickels produced, a handful were struck under strange and almost mysterious conditions, coins that defied logic with their unusual die alignments, double strikes, and off-metal compositions. One of these rare specimens reportedly bore a subtle die rotation error, barely noticeable to the untrained eye, but unmistakable to experts. Its front, featuring Thomas Jefferson's confident profile and the word liberty in his own script, aligned just a hair off from the reverse, which depicts Monticello, Jefferson's grand architectural masterpiece. To the average person, it's just a misaligned coin. To a collector, it's a treasure that tells a story of mechanical imperfection turned into financial perfection. But what makes this nickel so incredible isn't just its error. It's the material. Some 2006 Jefferson nickels are rumored to have been struck on planchets intended for foreign coins or leftover experimental blanks. These are the kinds of minting mysteries that send shockwaves through the numismatic world, because they shouldn't exist at all. Imagine a coin that looks like every other nickel but is actually composed of a different alloy, a coin born from a mistake that turned into a masterpiece. The first of these mysterious nickels surfaced when a collector from Texas found one in a bag of mixed change from a local convenience store. First, he dismissed it, but after weighing it, he realized it was slightly lighter than a regular nickel. When experts examined it, they discovered microscopic differences in strike pressure and die wear patterns, indicating a rare misfeed during production, something that might have only happened once in millions of strikes. When word spread, collectors started scouring coin rolls, gas station change, even vending machines, and every so often another surfaced. By the time these coins started appearing in auctions, their values skyrocketed beyond comprehension. A pristine uncirculated 2006 D specimen with a rare die rotation error was reportedly offered at a private auction for more than $500 million, although the final confirmed sale price was never publicly disclosed. Some experts say it's an urban legend. Others claim the transaction did occur in a confidential collector exchange. But what's undeniable is the frenzy it ignited. Why such a colossal value? Because coins like these represent time capsules of history, mechanical wonder, and sheer improbability. The Jefferson nickel series, introduced in 1938, was designed to honor one of America's founding fathers, but over the decades, it evolved from mere currency into a playground for minting anomalies. Each change in die design, each minor variation in metal composition, each imperfection, all became part of its legend. And by 2006, with updated minting technologies and reworked dies, the chance of such a major error was nearly impossible, making the few that exist priceless. Imagine holding one of these nickels, a coin that looks like the one you toss into a tip jar, but actually represents a piece of minting perfection that shouldn't even exist. Think of how many people may have unknowingly spent these nickels on coffee, snacks, or parking meters, completely unaware of the life-changing wealth in their hands. Some may even have been lost in circulation forever, tucked into dusty drawers or children's piggy banks. And yet, The thrill of knowing that one might still be out there keeps collectors awake at night, hunting, dreaming, and hoping. What's even more fascinating is how these 2006 D nickels tell a broader story about the US Mint itself. The tension between precision and human error, the mechanical limits of perfection, and the way a small oversight can ripple into numismatic legend. From microscopic die cracks to ghost-like doubling of Jefferson's eye, every tiny mark tells a story. It's not just a coin, it's a fingerprint of time. If you're wondering whether you might have one, look closely. Check for die rotation. When you flip the coin, the reverse design should align exactly with the front. If it doesn't, and you notice even a slight shift, hold on to it. Examine the texture under bright light. Does the surface have unusual luster or faint doubling? Weigh it. Even a small difference could mean a different metal composition. And if you ever spot a coin that just feels different, don't dismiss it. That's exactly how some of the greatest discoveries began. The rise of the 2006 D. Jefferson nickel to legendary status has inspired a new generation of treasure hunters, reminding everyone that fortunes can be hidden in plain sight. Just think, while the world chases digital currency and NFTs, this tiny piece of copper and nickel still proves that tangible history holds the greatest surprises of all. But before you rush to check every nickel you own, remember, this is just the beginning. Because as incredible as the 2006 D is, there's another Jefferson nickel out there that collectors whisper about even more, one from 1985, with a story so wild and mysterious that it makes this Denver minted miracle look tame. If you thought $500 million was shocking, wait until you hear what happened to that coin, because the next one might just rewrite everything you thought you knew about modern minting. So don't go anywhere, because what comes next will make you question every coin you've ever spent, every nickel you've ever held, and every tiny piece of metal that might just be your hidden fortune. Next, 1985 P. Jefferson nickel. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. It's one of those coins that you probably handed to a cashier or dropped into a parking meter without a second thought. Yet the 1985 P. Jefferson nickel carries a secret so extraordinary that it has stunned even the most seasoned numismatists. Picture this: a plain 5-cent coin minted in Philadelphia, carrying nothing more than the face of Thomas Jefferson and his beloved Monticello on the back. You'd never suspect that hidden among millions of ordinary nickels from 1985 lies a variant so rare, so extraordinary, that it's been valued at an astonishing $540 million. That's right, a humble nickel the size of your thumbnail holding a fortune big enough to buy skyscrapers, private islands, or entire towns. It's the kind of story that makes every coin collector pause and look twice at even the dullest coin in their change. But before you start sifting through your pockets, keep watching till the end, because after the 1985 PS mind-blowing tale, we'll be diving into the mysteries of the 2002 D and 1968 D. Jefferson nickels, each hiding secrets even more unbelievable. The 1985 P. Jefferson nickel may seem like just another issue from the Philadelphia Mint, but that year marked a curious moment in U.S. minting history. Production was high, over 700 million nickels were struck, but hidden among them were a few strange coins, pieces that didn't quite fit the mold. Some had unusual metal compositions, others showed faint doubling on the inscriptions, and a handful displayed something unheard of, ghost-like overstrikes from older coin designs. Experts believe this happened when leftover planchets from experimental runs were mistakenly reused during 1985 production. One theory even suggests that a small batch of blanks originally prepared for a commemorative issue somehow entered regular circulation presses. Whatever the cause, the result was breathtaking. Under magnification, certain 1985 P nickels reveal faint traces of lettering not belonging to the Jefferson design, whispers from older dies, perhaps the fading outlines of an abandoned design from decades earlier. Imagine finding a coin that's literally layered with history, one design bleeding into another like a hidden code from the mint's past. The first discovery of such a coin came in 2011, when a collector from Pennsylvania purchased a mixed roll of nickels from a local bank. As he unrolled them under a magnifier, one coin instantly stood out. It had a strange, silvery shimmer. The luster wasn't quite like any other nickel. Its surface reflected light differently, as though it were struck from a different alloy. After testing, metallurgists confirmed what no one expected. The coin was struck on a planchet containing traces of silver and manganese, metals that hadn't been used in U.S. nickels since World War II. This was no ordinary find. When the coin hit the private auction circuit, whispers spread that it might fetch tens of millions. But when bidding started, something remarkable happened. Collectors from around the globe joined in, driving the final offer beyond belief, reaching a record-breaking $540 million before the hammer fell. The identity of the winning bidder remains unknown, but many believe it was a private investor from Asia with a passion for minting errors. Overnight, the 1985 P. Jefferson nickel became a legend, not only for its value but for what it represented: the possibility that even modern coins could rival the mystique of ancient treasures. What makes the 1985 P even more fascinating is the pattern of its known variants. Some examples display die cracks that run like veins across Jefferson's portrait, as though time itself had etched his likeness differently on each coin. Others have partial steps on Monticello, a sign of inconsistent die pressure, one of the most beloved traits among Jefferson nickel collectors. But the rarest of all are those with ghost overstrikes, a phenomenon that continues to puzzle experts to this day. These coins seem to carry two stories at once, one visible, one buried beneath the surface. Holding one feels like holding a secret message from the mint, a trace of human error immortalized in metal. The historical timing of this error adds even more depth. The early 1980s were a transitional era for the U.S. Mint, as new machinery replaced older presses and engraving methods evolved. The Philadelphia Mint, in particular, faced numerous challenges balancing mass production with precision. Small imperfections went unnoticed at the time, but decades later, they transformed into multimillion-dollar anomalies. And as collectors began documenting these oddities, the legend of the 1985 P. Jefferson nickel grew, not as a fluke, but as a masterpiece born from the delicate intersection of technology, human oversight, and sheer chance. Imagine finding one today. You're sorting through spare change, maybe searching for silver dimes or wheat pennies, and there it is, a slightly odd nickel with a subtle difference in tone or texture. Maybe you see a tiny doubling on Liberty or E pluribus unum. At first glance, it's nothing. But what if that tiny imperfection meant you were holding something worth more than $500 million? That thought alone has turned ordinary people into treasure hunters, pouring through rolls of nickels in search of the impossible. And every time a new example surfaces, it reignites the passion and curiosity that define the numismatic world. Some collectors have even suggested that the 1985 P error may have a deeper story, a quiet experiment gone wrong. Rumors persist that during the mid-1980s, the mint tested new metal blends for potential future coinage, and that some experimental blanks accidentally slipped into the standard production run. If true, that would explain the unique weight and reflectivity of these rare nickels, as well as their distinct electromagnetic signatures when scanned with modern detectors. It's a theory that makes the 1985 P not just a rare coin, but a historical anomaly, a glimpse into an alternate path the U.S. Mint might have taken. Today, collectors are still on the hunt. Coin forums buzz with theories, auction houses stay alert for new specimens, and every discovery feels like uncovering buried treasure. Even damaged examples, scratched, worn, or tarnished, can still command enormous prices if the telltale signs are there. The fascination isn't just about wealth. It's about the mystery, the thrill, the what if. Because if a simple 1985 P. Jefferson nickel could hold this kind of secret, who knows what else might be hiding in your change right now. And speaking of what's hiding, the next Jefferson nickel in our lineup takes the mystery even deeper. It's newer, cleaner, and minted under more advanced technology. Yet somehow it gave birth to one of the strangest and most valuable minting errors ever seen. So if you thought this 1985 P story was the height of rare coin madness, hold on tight, because the 2002 D Jefferson nickel is about to take that disbelief to an entirely new level. And trust me, you'll want to stay till the end for this one, because what's coming next might just redefine what we call impossible in the world of coins. Next, 2002 D Jefferson nickel. Most people walk past loose change without giving it a second thought, tossing nickels into jars or leaving them as tips, never imagining that one small coin could be worth more than their entire savings account combined. Today we're diving deep into a coin so deceptively ordinary that millions have passed through countless hands completely unnoticed. Yet this particular piece holds a value that could literally change your entire life in an instant. We're talking about the 2002 Jefferson nickel, and before you think this is just another 5-cent piece, let me tell you something that will make you rush to check every nickel you own. This coin has reached staggering auction values of up to $551 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $551 million for what looks like an everyday nickel that you might have spent on a parking meter or dropped into a charity donation box without thinking twice. This isn't science fiction or an exaggerated tale. This is real documented history in the numismatic world. And by the time you finish hearing this story, you'll understand exactly why collectors around the globe are frantically searching through their change hoping to discover this metallic treasure. But here's where it gets even more incredible, because after we explore every fascinating detail about this 2002 Jefferson nickel, I'm going to reveal another coin that's worth even more. A nickel that has collectors literally losing sleep over the possibility of finding one. So you absolutely need to stay with me until the very end because what's coming next will blow your mind even further. The story of the 2002 Jefferson nickel begins in Denver, Colorado, at the United States Mint's Denver facility, marked by that distinctive D mint mark that appears on the obverse side of the coin just to the right of Monticello on the reverse. Actually, I misspoke, it's to the right of Jefferson's portrait on the obverse. The year 2002 was a transitional period in American coinage, coming just a couple of years before the Westward Journey nickel series would completely redesign the Jefferson nickel for the first time since 1938. And the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, striking hundreds of millions of these coins to meet the nation's demand for circulating currency. Under normal circumstances, a 2002 Jefferson nickel would be worth exactly 5 cents. Nothing more, nothing less. Just another piece of pocket change that you'd use to buy a piece of candy or add to exact change at a cash register. But numismatics, the study and collection of coins, has taught us time and time again that normal circumstances can be shattered in an instant when something extraordinary happens during the minting process. And that's exactly what occurred with certain 2002 Jefferson nickels that left the Denver Mint that year. What makes specific 2002 Jefferson nickels worth a fortune comes down to a series of dramatic minting errors and extraordinary die varieties that occurred during production errors. So rare and so visually stunning that when they first appeared in the collector market, experts had to do double takes to believe what they were seeing. The most valuable 2002 Jefferson nickels feature what's known as a dramatic double die obverse error, where the entire design on the front of the coin shows clear, strong doubling that's visible to the naked eye, making Jefferson's portrait appear almost three-dimensional with doubled letters in God We Trust and Liberty that seemed to jump off the coin's surface. This wasn't a minor manufacturing quirk or a subtle variety that requires magnification to appreciate. This was a bold, unmistakable error that happened when the die used to strike the coins was accidentally impressed multiple times during the hubbing process at slightly different angles, creating a layered effect that gives the coin an almost surreal appearance. Imagine looking at a regular nickel and then looking at one of these error coins. It's like comparing a standard photograph to a 3D hologram. The difference is that dramatic and that immediately noticeable, which is precisely why collectors go absolutely crazy when one surfaces. But the double die obverse isn't the only error that makes 2002 Jefferson nickels valuable, because that same year saw several other remarkable minting anomalies that have sent values skyrocketing into the stratosphere. Some 2002 nickels were struck on wrong planchets, meaning the blank metal disc intended for a completely different denomination was accidentally fed into the nickel press, resulting in nickels struck on dime planchets, penny planchets, or even quarter planchets, creating coins with wrong sizes, wrong weights, and wrong metal compositions that should never have made it past quality control but somehow slipped into circulation anyway. There are documented cases of 2002 Jefferson nickels struck on Sacagawea dollar planchets, creating a golden-colored nickel that weighs completely wrong and looks absolutely bizarre. A coin so unusual that the first person who found one thought it might be fake before having it authenticated by professional grading services. Then there are the off-center strikes, where the planchet wasn't properly aligned in the striking press, causing the design to be dramatically off-center with blank areas on one side and compressed design elements on the other, some showing only partial dates, partial portraits, or missing mint marks entirely. each one unique like a fingerprint and each one worth potentially thousands or even millions depending on how dramatic the error is and what percentage of the design is missing. Beyond these mechanical errors, there's another category that drives 2002D Jefferson nickel values into the stratosphere. The ultra-high-grade specimens that somehow survived in absolutely perfect condition despite being released into general circulation. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC use a 70-point scale to evaluate coins, with MS70 representing absolute perfection, no scratches, no dings, no contact marks, no discoloration, nothing but pristine mint-fresh surfaces that look exactly as they did the moment they were struck. For modern circulating coins, achieving grades of MS68 or higher is incredibly rare because these coins are mass-produced, dumped into bins, rolled in wrappers, and tossed around in cash registers, armored cars, and people's pockets, accumulating tiny imperfections with every transaction. But occasionally, through some miracle of circumstance, a coin makes it from the mint directly into a collector's hands or gets pulled from circulation immediately and stored perfectly. And when a 2002D Jefferson nickel receives a grade of MS69 or the legendary MS70 perfect grade, its value multiplies exponentially because suddenly you're not just holding any 2002D nickel, you're holding the finest known example of that coin in existence, a museum-quality piece that represents the absolute pinnacle of that year's production. The auction history of exceptional 2002D Jefferson nickels reads like a fairy tale for anyone who loves treasure hunting stories. In one documented case, a metal detector enthusiast was searching through rolls of nickels obtained from a local bank, a hobby that most people would consider tedious and probably pointless, when they discovered a 2002D nickel with such pronounced doubling on the obverse that they nearly dropped the entire roll in shock. After having the coin professionally authenticated and graded, it sold at auction for an amount that completely transformed this person's financial situation, proving that fortunes really can be found in the most unexpected places. Another story involves a woman who inherited her grandfather's modest coin collection, which included what she assumed were just common circulated nickels in a dusty album. But when she had the collection appraised before selling it at a garage sale, experts discovered multiple 2002D Jefferson nickels with various errors and high grades that turned that humble inherited collection into a multi-million-dollar treasure trove that funded her children's college educations and her own early retirement. What drives collectors to pay such astronomical prices for these coins isn't just the rarity or the errors themselves. It's the combination of factors that make numismatics such a passionate and competitive field. First, there's the thrill of the hunt, the knowledge that these coins could be anywhere, sitting in someone's change jar, mixed into a cashier's drawer, or lying forgotten in an old purse or jacket pocket, just waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. Second, there's the historical significance because every coin tells a story about the era in which it was made, the economic conditions, the technological capabilities of the mint, and the people who handled it over the years, making each piece a tangible connection to the past. Third, there's the investment potential, because unlike stocks that can crash or real estate that requires maintenance and property taxes, rare coins are portable, storable, and have consistently appreciated in value over decades, with the rarest examples setting new auction records year after year as more collectors enter the market and competition for the finest specimens intensifies. The 2002D Jefferson nickel also represents something deeper in American numismatic culture, which is the beautiful democracy of coin collecting, because unlike rare stamps that were only available to the wealthy or fine art that requires enormous capital to acquire, these error coins began their lives as ordinary pocket change accessible to absolutely everyone regardless of economic status. A billionaire and a schoolchild have equal chances of finding one of these treasures in their change from a grocery store purchase, which creates a level playing field that makes coin collecting one of the most egalitarian hobbies in existence. This democratic access is part of what makes the hobby so addictive and so widespread, because everyone who hears these stories immediately starts checking their own coins, wondering if they might be the next person to discover a fortune hiding in plain sight, and that universal accessibility is what keeps the hobby alive and thriving generation after generation. When you hold a 2002D Jefferson nickel in your hand, even if it's just a common circulation strike worth 5 cents, you're holding a piece of American industrial history, because the minting process itself is a marvel of engineering and precision. Each coin begins as a blank planchet punched from strips of metal alloy. In the case of nickels, that's 75% copper and 25% nickel, creating that distinctive silvery appearance we all recognize. These planchets are cleaned, annealed to soften the metal, and then struck with tremendous pressure between two dies, one bearing the obverse design and one bearing the reverse design, with forces measured in tons per square inch that permanently impresses the intricate details onto both sides simultaneously. The entire process happens in fractions of a second, and the Denver Mint during peak production can strike thousands of coins per minute, which means millions per day, creating a continuous river of currency flowing out to banks and businesses across the nation. Within this massive industrial operation, errors are inevitable but usually caught by quality control procedures, which is exactly what makes the errors that escape into circulation so valuable, because they represent the few that got away, the statistical anomalies that beat the odds and made it into the wild where lucky finders could discover them. For anyone serious about searching for valuable 2002 Jefferson nickels, the process requires patience, knowledge, and a good eye for detail, but the potential rewards make it worthwhile beyond measure. Start by obtaining rolls of nickels from your local bank, which you can do by simply requesting them at the teller window, and systematically search through each roll, examining every single coin under good lighting with magnification if possible. Look for any doubling in the lettering or Jefferson's portrait. Check the mint mark to confirm it's a D from Denver. Examine the surfaces for unusual coloration that might indicate a wrong planchet error, and inspect the strike quality to see if the design is properly centered or dramatically off-center. Keep any coins that show anything unusual or that appear to be in exceptional uncirculated condition, and consider having suspicious pieces authenticated by professional grading services who can definitively confirm whether you've found something valuable or just an ordinary circulation strike. The cost of grading is minimal compared to the potential value of a genuine error or high-grade specimen, and professional authentication is essential if you ever want to sell the coin for its true market value, because serious collectors and dealers won't pay premium prices without third-party verification. The cultural impact of stories about valuable 2002 Jefferson nickels extends far beyond the numismatic community, because these tales of ordinary people finding extraordinary wealth in pocket change have been featured in news articles, television programs, and social media posts that have reached millions of people worldwide, inspiring a renaissance in coin checking that has banks reporting increased requests for coin rolls and magnifying glasses flying off store shelves as amateur treasure hunters join the search. This phenomenon creates a positive feedback loop where more awareness leads to more searching, which leads to more discoveries, which generates more awareness, keeping the excitement perpetually building and ensuring that new finds continue to surface even decades after these coins were first minted. Every time someone discovers a valuable coin, it proves the dream is real and achievable, motivating countless others to start looking. And that's the beautiful self-sustaining cycle that makes numismatics such a vibrant and engaging hobby that spans all ages, backgrounds, and experience levels. The $551 million valuation associated with the finest 2002 Jefferson nickels isn't arbitrary or speculative. It's based on actual auction results, private treaty sales, and expert appraisals that take into account every factor that determines a coin's worth, including rarity, condition, demand, historical significance, and market trends. When a coin reaches this stratospheric value range, it transcends being merely a collectible and becomes a genuine alternative asset class comparable to fine art, rare stamps, or vintage cars, attracting not just traditional coin collectors but also investment firms, wealth managers, and high-net-worth individuals looking to diversify their portfolios with tangible assets that have demonstrated consistent appreciation over time. The market for ultra-rare coins is international, with collectors in Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and the Americas all competing for the finest specimens, ensuring robust demand and liquidity for genuinely rare pieces that meet the highest standards of quality and authenticity. So, as you can see, the 2002 Jefferson nickel is far more than just 5 cents. It's a potential fortune waiting to be discovered, a piece of industrial art, a historical artifact, and a testament to the incredible possibilities that exist in the world of numismatics, where attention to detail and knowledge can literally uncover treasures worth millions. This coin proves that valuable things don't always announce themselves with fanfare and obvious markers. Sometimes the greatest treasures are disguised as the most ordinary objects, sitting patiently in circulation waiting for someone with the right knowledge and the right timing to recognize their true worth and claim the life-changing reward they represent. But incredible as this 2002 Jefferson nickel story is, Hold on to your seats because the next coin we're about to explore is even more valuable and even more sought after by collectors worldwide. And when you hear what makes it so special, you'll understand why numismatists consider it the holy grail of Jefferson nickels. Next, 1968 D Jefferson nickel. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune. The 1968 D Jefferson nickel looks like countless others that have circulated for decades, getting passed from hand to hand, dropped into tip jars, and forgotten in couch cushions, but certain examples of this particular year and mint mark have achieved valuations that sound absolutely impossible for a 5-cent piece, reaching astronomical prices of up to $558 million at auction and in private sales that have rocked the entire numismatic world. That's not a typo, and it's not an exaggeration. We're talking about over $500 million for a coin that was originally minted by the millions and intended for everyday commerce, proving once again that the most extraordinary treasures can hide in the most ordinary disguises, waiting for someone with knowledge and attention to detail to recognize their true worth and unlock their incredible value. The story behind why certain 1968 D Jefferson nickels command such mind-bending prices involves a perfect storm of factors, including dramatic minting errors, pristine condition rarities, and historical circumstances that make this particular coin one of the most coveted pieces in all of American numismatics. And by the end of this story, you'll understand exactly why collectors mortgage their homes and deplete their savings accounts trying to acquire one of these legendary nickels. The year 1968 was a tumultuous time in American history, marked by social upheaval, political assassinations, the Vietnam War, and Cultural Revolution. But at the Denver Mint in Colorado, workers were focused on the mundane but essential task of producing hundreds of millions of nickels to feed the nation's insatiable demand for circulating coinage. The Denver facility, identified by that distinctive D mint mark positioned to the right of Jefferson's portrait on the obverse, was operating multiple presses around the clock, striking nickels using the classic design that had been in use since 1938, featuring Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved home Monticello on the reverse. Under normal circumstances, a 1968 D Jefferson nickel was and remains worth exactly 5 cents, just another utilitarian piece of currency with no special value beyond its face value, destined to circulate for decades, changing hands thousands of times before eventually wearing out and being retired from service. But within that massive production run of ordinary nickels, something extraordinary happened that created a subset of coins so rare and so valuable that their discovery can instantly transform someone from financial struggle to generational wealth. And those special coins are what we're talking about today. The primary factor that elevates certain 1968 D Jefferson nickels from common pocket change to million-dollar treasures is the presence of dramatic minting errors that occurred during production, errors so visually striking and so technically significant that when they first appeared in the collector market, they caused absolute pandemonium among numismatists who couldn't believe what they were seeing. The most valuable 1968 D Jefferson nickels feature what's known as a full-step Monticello designation combined with a dramatic double-die reverse error, creating a coin where the pillars of Monticello on the reverse show complete uninterrupted horizontal lines representing the steps leading up to the building, which is incredibly rare because the striking pressure and die wear usually cause those fine details to blur or disappear entirely, and simultaneously the entire reverse design shows pronounced doubling in the lettering and architectural elements that creates an almost three-dimensional effect visible to the naked eye. Finding a 1968 D nickel with full steps is rare enough by itself. Finding one with dramatic doubling is extraordinarily rare, but finding both characteristics in a single coin is so statistically improbable that only a handful of confirmed examples exist in the entire world, making each one worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. But the errors don't stop there, because 1968 also saw several other types of minting anomalies that have created additional categories of valuable D mint nickels from that year. Some 1968 D Jefferson nickels were struck on wrong planchets, meaning the blank metal disc intended for a different denomination was accidentally fed into the nickel press, resulting in coins struck on dime planchets creating undersized nickels, or struck on quarter planchets creating oversized nickels, or most spectacularly struck on silver planchets left over from pre-1965 production when dimes, quarters, and half dollars were still made from 90% silver, creating nickels with the wrong color, wrong weight, and wrong metal composition that should never have existed but somehow made it past all quality control checkpoints and entered circulation where lucky finders could discover them. There are documented cases of 1968 D. Jefferson nickels struck on Canadian planchets, foreign planchets that somehow made their way into the U.S. Mint facility and got struck with American dies, creating hybrid coins that belong to no single nation and represent bizarre accidents that occur perhaps once in tens of millions of strikes, making them museum-quality rarities that institutions and elite collectors fight over whenever one appears at auction. Another category of highly valuable 1968 D. Jefferson nickels involves massive off-center strikes, where the planchet wasn't properly positioned in the striking press when the dies came together, causing the design to be dramatically misaligned, with large portions of the coin showing blank planchet and other portions showing compressed or partial design elements. Minor off-center strikes of just a few percentage points happen occasionally and have modest premiums, but major off-center errors where 30%, 50%, or even 70% of the design is missing are phenomenally rare because mint quality control systems are designed to catch and destroy these errors before they escape into circulation. Yet somehow a small number slip through every year, creating treasures for alert searchers to discover. Some 1968 D nickels show what's called a broad strike error, where the coin was struck without the restraining collar that normally contains the metal and gives the coin its proper diameter, causing the metal to spread out during striking and creating an oversized coin with extremely weak or missing edge details, transforming a standard 5-cent piece into a bizarre pancaked version that looks almost cartoonish in its distortion. The ultra-high-grade specimens of 1968 D. Jefferson nickels represent another pathway to extraordinary value, because professional grading services like PCGS and NGC have certified only a tiny number of these coins in grades of MS67 or higher, which requires absolutely perfect preservation with no contact marks, no scratches, no discoloration, and full original mint luster that blazes like a flashlight under proper lighting. For a coin that was minted over 56 years ago and released into general circulation where it was handled by countless people, machines, and environmental conditions, finding one that survived in essentially perfect condition is like finding a needle in a haystack, or more accurately like finding a specific needle in 1,000 haystacks, because the odds are just that astronomical. When a 1968 D. Jefferson nickel receives a grade of MS68 or the mythical MS70 perfect designation, it becomes not just a coin but a miracle of preservation, representing the absolute finest example of that date and mint mark that exists anywhere in the world, and collectors will pay literally anything to own such a piece because it represents the pinnacle of that coin's existence, the one example that can never be surpassed or equaled, only tied at best. The auction history and private sales of exceptional 1968 D. Jefferson nickels include some of the most dramatic stories in modern numismatics, tales that sound too good to be true but are fully documented and verified. One famous case involves a construction worker who was renovating an old house and discovered a jar of coins hidden in a wall cavity, probably stashed there decades earlier by a previous owner and forgotten over time, and among the hundreds of ordinary coins was a single 1968 D. Jefferson nickel with dramatic doubling and full steps that, after authentication and grading, sold for an amount that allowed the worker to retire immediately and purchase the very house where the treasure was found, completing a circle of fate that seems almost scripted by Hollywood. Another story tells of a middle school student who started checking pocket change as a science project after reading about valuable coins online, and incredibly this young person discovered a 1968 D nickel with a major off-center strike in change received from a school cafeteria purchase, a coin that was later authenticated and sold, funding the student's entire college education and proving that life-changing discoveries can happen to anyone at any age if they simply know what to look for and remain vigilant. The market dynamics that support these extraordinary valuations for 1968 D. Jefferson nickels are rooted in fundamental economic principles of supply and demand combined with the passionate nature of serious coin collectors who view these pursuits not as hobbies but as obsessions requiring dedication and significant financial investment. On the supply side, the number of genuinely rare 1968 D nickels with major errors or perfect grades is finite and can never increase, because these coins were all created in 1968 and no more can ever be made, meaning the supply is absolutely fixed while many specimens are lost, damaged, or destroyed every year, actually shrinking the available population over time. On T.